Hey everyone, this is Bissam from Gaza, continuing with you the coverage for Al-Arabi TV for the years under bombing. So today is the day 82 of the continuous bombing, the continuous genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. And today, the bombing, I mean the airstrikes, the ultimately several types of committing massacres against Palestinians were in Rafah and in Khan Yunis. In Rafah and Shabura, in Khan Yunis in the east, in the middle, and in the west of Khan Yunis. So the thing is, more than 30 people were killed, dozens of injuries in each of these places, and of course the bombing continued in the rest of Gaza Strip areas, the middle, the north, and Gaza City itself. We've become 3,000 people who were arrested during this war, during the past period, since 7th of October, just in Gaza Strip. So 3,000 people were arrested. No one, families, friends, relatives do not know what happened to them. Where are they? We've seen videos from the stadium, Al Yarmouk Stadium, or from other places where people are treated horribly, and they were taken by the Israeli soldiers to unknown places. So we became 3,000 people to be arrested until now, and we don't know what is happening with them or what happened to them actually. While some people in the past maybe 3 or 4 days got back from the prisons, the Israeli prisons, to the hospitals in Rafah, and they were in really bad, terrible conditions. For the humanitarian situation in Gaza, there is no enough food, medicines, and water, as you know. But now the thing is, people are moving more and more. They're leaving places like schools and hospitals where they can find some resources like water, some infrastructure like bathrooms, to unknown places in the Mawasi or even the streets of Rafah, because they were ready to evacuate. More than 50,000 pregnant women now in Gaza during and living this horrible situation, in need for medical support and need for hospitals. More than 180 newborn baby each day since the beginning of this war. They all are in need for humanitarian support. Their mothers need assistance and all these things. So the humanitarian situation is either collapsed or not about to collapse, over collapse actually, since the beginning of this war, especially the health system. That's for now. Keep following to know more about Gaza.
And they are saying that black captors, sure. And so this is a flower. Maybe someone drop it, and this man is trying to collect it because there is a shortage in the flower, and he asked me to not walk on it, so at least it's clean from the head of. I'm sorry for my people, I swear. These papers, Israeli army throwing on the people, like to inform the people who don't have internet maybe, or it's the old way they use, like telling the people of the refugee camp to move and evacuate. This war they used the way of the blocks, like every area they make like the old strip to a small blocks, so they can inform the people easily. And they are telling people that this area, it's a war zone, and you need to leave to Derbala or Rafah. But they don't consider that there is no space there is no water, there is no place safe also for them, so they are telling people to move to a different area. At the same time, they are bombing in a different area. I don't know.
وصل إلينا كونتينر به عدد كبير من الشهداء، بعضهم يعني مكتمل للجسد وبعض أشلاء، لكن الأشلاء يعني قد تحللت وبعض الأجسام قد تحللت، فنحن لا نستطيع في داخل حي مسكون في داخل هذه المنطقة بفتح هذه الثلاجة أو الكونتينر للتعامل معه، ونحن نتواصل مع أصحاب الشأن للنقل إلى المقبرة، ومن هناك سيكون بإذن الله تعالى التوثيق عبر وزارة الصحة الفلسطينية ووزارة العدل لتوثيق جرائم حرب ضد جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. داخل الكونتينر الوضع سيء جدا، الرائحة لا تطاق. هم وصلوا من عبر معبر صوفا، وتم إبلاغنا عبر وكالة الأمم المتحدة أنه سيصل لكم عدد من الشهداء، وأنتم ترون هذا هو الكونتينر وبه عدد من الشهداء. لا نعلم العدد، يقال أنه 80، لكن نحن لم نستطع العد بسبب قوة الرائحة وعدم استطاعة الطواقم الطبية التعامل في هذا المكان، وخوفا على انتشار الأمراض في داخل هذا الحي.
يخلونا زي اللي عزك الكلاب نعوت، إن ما عوتش يضربوك، إن ما نوتش يضربوك، إن ما بعتش يضربوك، يكسروك. فيش لازم تعمل اللي بدهم إياه.
ممنوع تطلب حاجة، لو قلت بدي أشرب طبعا الضرب بينزل على راسك أو على أي جزء من جسمك. فيش لا فرق ما بين صغير وكبير. يعني أنا عمري 62 سنة، لأن ضربوا لي هواية في صدري، أنا عندي مشاكل في الجهاز التنفسي.
وشلحونا عريانين زي ما جابتك امك، شلحونا وغميونا واخذونا قاعد على النقب وقعدوا يطبوا فينا بوكسات. فلما وصلنا في الباصات خشينا قاعدوا يكهربوا فينا وشربونا حبوب هدوسه، حبوب هدوسه وميه وشبه ومش عارف ايش، وميه وسخه وعكره، ويخبطوا عروسنا.
ترفع راسك يخبطك في الدبشك، يخبطك في اي ايش بايده. بعدين كان معاهم زي البشمات في الايد يخبطك.
وانا قاعد الصبح حرقني في السيجاره في ظهري وقاعد يغلط علي ويسب علي. هاي لقيت ظهري اغرى هيك. بعديها والساعه ما حملونا العصر قعدوا يضربوا فينا كمان.
اخويا عنده مصارينه مقطعه، عامل عمليه في مصارينه، خدت بالك، ما رسموا على الكهرباء، يصير يصوت يقول لهم يا عمي انا مريض، كل ما يقولوا له يقول لهم انا مريض يزيدوا.
الميه ميه، يقعد يحط راسنا في الميه، يمشينا على القزاز، يقعد يقول لنا هذا حماس، هذا فتح، هذا يعني اللي هان صواريخ وهان صواريخ زي هيك. يقعد يقول لنا، نقول له ما بنعرفش يا عم، احنا اميين.
احنا بولنا حالنا، احنا
انا كمان
احنا يا عمي من كتر الضرب، واللي تيجي تقول له بدك تخش الحمام يقول لك لا، ممنوع تخش حمام، ممنوع.
معصبات عينيا وبيدي 30 يوم. 30 يوم. هو كيف لما بيجي يسوقك وانت مش شايف بتتعثر في حاجه كهرباء على الارض. كان اول 18 يوم ما اكلتش ولا حاجه غير الميه، بعدين يا تفاحه يا خياره، يوم تفاحه يوم خياره.
انا بالنسبه لي حطوني في خيمه وحط الباروده هنا على كتفي، قال لي اختار لك موته او حطك في البحر، او قلت له ده ربنا كتب لي الشهاده اموت شهيد. قال لي اختار يمين ولا شمال؟ قلت له ما بعرفش. قال لي يلا بديش خليك تموت شهيد، تعال على اليمين. من 10 ل 12 ساعه على الحصمه لبسوني شو اسمه هذا بلبز عشان ممنوع اروح الحمام، بعمل عملها لحالي. قعدوا لي 3 ايام على الركب، ممنوع تتحرك، ما تتحركش، ترتاح لما تيجي ساعة الغداء. و10 ساعات وانا معلق، مره يرفع ايدي هيك من ورا ومره من قدام ويمسك الجنزير يرفع ويتركه.
سال من يوم الحبس تلاقي وبالصوب في اجري هادي خبطني والله في البسطار، مزع لي اياها من اول يوم.
استنى شوي تخطيط.
انا لقيت 18 يوم مأسور. اجونا قبل ما يأسرونا ب3 ايام كانوا يطخوا على الدور، يخزقوا الدور كلها. في اليوم الرابع ما لقينا الا الكباشات والدبابات جايين وبجرفوا في المكان كله. حجزونا في شقه كانوا هم قاعدين فيها مستوطنين فيها في المنطقه يعني. قعدنا بالضبط 48 ساعه، لا ميه ولا اكل ولا شيء، وغير الكلبشات بس ورا في الظهر طبعا، وضرب وذل واهانه. يجي يلاقيك نايم يحمل قداحه ويكويها في ظهرك. يعني انا طفى السيجاره في ظهري كذا مره. حد من الشباب يقول له بدنا نشرب ميه، يقول له افتح تمك عشان اشربها. لما يفتح الشاب تمه، الشاب مغمى عينيه من الشاي، ما يفتح تمه لو يتفل له في تمه. يعني انا رجلي وصلت هالقد. وقفنا على الشبك يشبحنا، في شاب كان معنا مقطوع على ايده من بدايه الحرب، يشبحوه على ايد واحده، خليه واقف ب3 ساعات و4 كل ساعه بحسها باسبوع. تعذيب ما يعلم فيه الا الله. يعني لما جينا اليوم نروح عذبونا عن ال 18 يوم اللي سبقوا.
محمد نعمان عنساوي من عبوين. انا اللي صار معي انه امبارح على الساعه 9 في الليل بكيت مروح من الشغل، فبين جلجليه وسنجل تفاجأت في محسوم للجيش. فطلعوا يعني من بين الشجر وإشي زي هيك، فوقفوني وكليت في الباص واعطيني المفتاح، ما سألني عن هويتي ولا عن اي شيء. قال لي اعطيني تلفونك، اعطيت تلفوني، فتح التلفون، قال لي ليش فيش تليجرام على التلفون؟ قلت له فيش عندي تليجرام. قال لي لا انت مسحته كل ما توصل عندي. قلت له لا فيش عندي تليجرام. قال لي لا في عندك تليجرام وهذا الرقم في عليه تليجرام. بعدها نزلني من السيارة واجوا علي الجيش، ضربوني على وجهي. بعدين هو يكلب على المواقع، لقى صورة على الواتساب على جروب صورة الشهيد ولي الحواح، فلما شافها صار يضربوا فيي، وبعدين سحبوني ورموني على الأرض. اجى جندي قاعد على فوقي وصار يخنق فيي وحط البرد في ثمي وصار يقول لي موت موت. يعني انا لا اراديا زكيت الجندي شوي، فهجموا علي الجيش، الجنود التموا حوالي، فاجى واحد ضربني في البارود على راسي هان. يعني الحمد لله رب العالمين. يعني على اثرها انه 6 قطب في راسي، وضربوني على وجهي وعلى جرياتي.
اسمي وجد سليم من حي الزيتون. لحظة ما خدونا جوا على الدار، لقيت في طيارة زي الهليكوبتر الصغيرة هذه صارت تطوح، والجرافة لقيتها هدمت الحيطة صارت تطوح، وحطونا ببراكسات كبار كل حوالي كل 60-70 نفر في براكس، وقعدونا ونتغطى في حرام واحد وفرشة حملها صامتة بس، وقعدوا يعذبونا. النوم ما نعرفوش، صحونا بالساعة 5 الصبح للساعة 12 في الليل، طول باقي النهار على ركبنا قاعدين ما نكوع ولا حاجة. كانوا عذبونا، بقول لك كانوا يقولوا لنا ناموا تريحوكم 10 دقائق ربع ساعة على بطنكم، خلونا ننام ونحط ايدينا على راسنا، بعدين يمر بالجيش خذ فينا قتل وبعدين يطلع، قلنا خلاص يلا قوموا تريحوا هيك. ما فيش ولا يوم زي الناس، كله قتل وهانه وغلط وشتم. امبارح زعقوا علينا عشة تقريبا، قالنا خلاص وقفنا طابور احنا 6 او بيطلعوا 5 وقفنا طابور لو قالنا خلاص روحوا. اجى الصبح يمكن على 6 زعقوا علينا، تمينا يمكن واقفين يمكن ساعة قبل ما اجى الباص والشرطة والهدول. خذونا وطلعونا في الباص، بعدين رمونا على كرم بسالم. قالنا معكم 10 دقائق تقدروا ماشيين الخط هذا، إذا هذا حتطفوا. صرنا نجري، أنا أجري كانت مش ملفوفة ولا اليوم التفت من 22 يوم. اليوم التفت ما قدرتش أمشي، صرت أعرج عليها.
هل هذا يجوز؟ هل هذا منطق؟ هل هذا ضمير؟ هل هذا يعيش الناس هكذا؟ ماذا فعل الشعب الفلسطيني؟ لأنه يريد الحياة بكرامة، يريد الحياة بشرف. ما ذنب الأطفال؟ وما ذنب النساء؟ وما ذنب المرضى؟ وما ذنب هؤلاء الذين يروا الأمرين من هذا الاحتلال؟ أنا أدعو كل ضمير حي في العالم أن يرتقي إلى مسؤولياته. نحن لن نستجدي أحدا، ولكن نستجد الله. الله هو الذي يحمي هذا الشعب من هذا الألم ومن هذا العذاب، لأننا شعب نعيش ونستحق العيش بكرامة وشرف وازدهار. نحن نحب السلام ونحب أن نكون مثل شعوب العالم يعيشون بكرامة. الأطفال يموتون، والنساء تموت، والشيوخ تموت، والمرضى تموت. إلى متى؟ إلى متى؟ إلى متى؟ إلى متى؟
احنا عالم منكوبة. شوف هذاك والله حزين، هذاك ما هو ماكل ولا حاجة يا ويل. يا بيس تعال انت حزين، هذا مسكين تعال. صلاتك يا نبي. هذا كل شوي بزيدوا. ميو مش ميو. ميو. حصتكم واخذتوها.
اخذوا من اللحم الحي.
عملناه. خليكم موجودين. خلي ليش زعلان؟
الضمن وزع كبرها.
ميو. تفضل يا حبيبي. تفضل. على اللي مزعق غير تخبطني يعني. تفضل يا حبيبي. استنى خذ هاي على الحجر عشان تخبطنيش. يلا.
وين اللقاط؟
تفضل يا عمري.
This is breaking news from Palestine. In the West Bank, local sources tell me this may be the largest widespread raid since 2002. It's 4 a.m. Palestine time, December 28th. This began in Jenin, with occupation forces storming the city from multiple axes, coinciding, Al Mayadeen reported, with intense aircraft flying over the airspace. Within the next 20 minutes, Al Mayadeen and Al Jazeera reported they stormed Hebron, Tulkram, Ramallah, El Bereh, the town of Silwan, south of Al-Aqsa Mosque, town of Halhul, north of Hebron, town of Sinjil, northeast of Ramallah, and they raided a number of homes. They stormed the village of Rajib, east of Nablus, and the town of Azun, east of Kalkilia. Shortly after, at 2 a.m., Resistance News Network on Telegram reported that Zionist forces are currently invading 7 of 11 governorates in the West Bank, as they always do during these honestly nightly incursions. Not always this widespread, but nightly. Resistance factions in their different strongholds were confronting the IOF with force. The IOF stationed their vehicles at the Taubat hospital in Tulkram, and the resistance announced that they targeted the vehicles with bullets. And then the resistance, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades in the West Bank, released this statement. "O great people, you who have been patient until patience has failed you. O the best nation that has been brought forth from the people. Here are your soldiers fighting open battles with the occupation soldiers on every inch of the land of Palestine. Let this night be the night of anger and revenge, the night of glory for the hands holding the trigger despite all the hardships and pain. To all our fighters and armed groups, Tulkram of steadfastness, Jenin el-Qassam, the mountain of fire, Nablus, Ramallah, Betumar, El-Samua, Kalkilia, this is your day. Let the wrath of the brigade be on the ground with the might of the mighty." Later on, Al Arabi TV reported that the IOF stormed the security square surrounding Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas's house and collided with the Presidential Guard. They continued to storm more cities and towns and villages throughout the West Bank, sending reinforcements all throughout, and more resistance met them with force. A settler Telegram channel reported that a recruit was injured in Nablus. During the storming of the cities of Ramallah, Jenin, Tulkram, and the town of Halhul, Al Jazeera and others reported the IOF was storming money exchange shops all across the West Bank, and local sources tell me they were doing this looking to trace any large sums that might have been sent to support the resistance. A lot of news came out quickly, and I have all the details on my Telegram. It's called praxisredacted. The URL is on my profile. But Al Mayadeen reported that journalist Salman al-Khatib was injured in Ramallah by occupation bullets. He was shot in the thigh within an hour's time. The IOF also launched 3 drone strikes in the West Bank. The IOF just recently withdrew from Jenin and Tulkarm. Resistance News Network also reports that 20 minutes ago, the IOF withdrew from Nablus without achieving any objectives after suffering numerous casualties. Like I said, these raids happen every night, not as large as tonight, but every night across the West Bank. I'm gonna try to cover that more because it is not getting enough coverage.
These are the Palestine updates for the day. President of Turkey said in a statement that he believes there is no difference between Benjamin Netanyahu and Adolf Hitler, which has pissed off Netanyahu, and now he won't stop talking about it. Every single day that passes, the food insecurity and hunger becomes worse and worse. 17% of the current Gaza population is considered to be in catastrophic hunger level. 42% is currently in extreme hunger levels. This means that more than half of the population is either under current or catastrophic levels of hunger. Since October 7th, there have been 367 Israeli settler attacks. According to the UN, these settler attacks continue to happen in the occupied West Bank, which is why it's so important for us to not just focus on Gaza when we're talking about Palestine, but also the occupied West Bank as well. Updated figures on total devastation. 21,110 people have been killed altogether. 15,100 of them were children and women, and 3,111 of them were medical staff. 92 schools and universities are completely destroyed, and that is along with 65,000 houses that are either completely destroyed or just totally unsafe to live in. Of about the 21,000 total deaths, that means around 18,000 of them were either women, children, or medical staff. Make sure you like, comment, and share, and I'll be back tomorrow with more updates.
Israel steals skin and organs from the Palestinians. Hear me well, because this video is very important. Do you remember when the Shifa hospital was raided by the Israeli occupation army, claiming that there were tunnels beneath the hospital? And do you also remember when a lot of the doctors who were inside the Shifa hospital came out and they said that the occupation forces are stealing the unalived bodies that are out in the front yard of the hospital, and no one said anything? Do you also remember that Israel has the biggest skin bank in the world because they steal the skin of the dead bodies of the Palestinians? Then listen what happened now. 80 of the stolen bodies that were taken from a Shifa hospital and other places have been returned to the people to bury them. But before burying them, they found out what? The bodies came back with missing organs. Israel steals skin and organs from the Palestinians. The doctors of Palestine have warned so many times, and they spoke about it so many times, and they said that some bodies are missing, but no one gave it attention. And here we are now. 80 bodies are returned back with missing organs. This is what the occupation does to the people who are oppressed. This is what the occupation does when the world is silent and they are giving them basically the green light to do whatever they want. This is how the life is of a Palestinian in the West Bank and in Gaza.
It's day 81 of this brutal genocide. It's the 27th of December, and this is the last 24-hour update of what's happening in Gaza. The death toll is now over 21,110 since the 7th of October alone, and that's just in Gaza. That does not include occupied West Bank or East Jerusalem. At least 20 people were killed in a deadly Israeli attack near the Al-Amal hospital in Khan Yunis, levelling residential buildings. The Gaza Health Ministry says that in the last 24 hours alone, 195 people have been killed and 325 wounded. When I say these words, your brain might go blank. You might not be able to relate these figures with real life events or people, but just think about some of the photos that you might have been seeing online. The ones with kids crying in pain with their organs outside of their body. That's what the wounded look like. The Palestinian Red Crescent said that 3 Palestinians have been injured by Israeli gunfire during a raid near Hebron. Also in Hebron, the number of homes being demolished by the Israeli forces are on the rise. So far, as a result of these demolitions, at least 100 Palestinians have been displaced. after Netanyahu's comments that the people of Gaza should be voluntarily placed outside of Palestine, Israeli lawmaker Avigdor Lieberman also advocated for the relocation of the people of Gaza. He basically spoke about how Israel should completely disregard the Egypt-Israel peace treaty of 1979 so that Egypt has to take on displaced Palestinians. And the World Health Organization has warned that people of Gaza face grave peril. Although at this point I don't feel like warnings are even needed. It is happening in front of our eyes. If you can't see that the people of Gaza are facing grave peril, then I don't know what else will. Pro-Palestinian protesters blocked airports in New York, Los Angeles today, and the Israeli embassy in Seoul deleted a video of a hypothetical Hamas attack, basically trying to recreate what happened on October 7th in Israel as if it happened in Seoul, South Korea. This rightly drew criticism from the Seoul government and has since been deleted. Watching a genocide unfold on my screen for 81 days now, the brutality of it, the history of it, the complicity of it, the children with their organs outside of their bodies, the cries, the sorrow in the eyes, the pain, the mums celebrating that their sons are martyrs instead of mourning because they have nothing else left. It's a different kind of helplessness, and I'm here in my privileged little bubble being able to do nothing, trying to go on with life as if it's normal, enjoying some days, feeling guilty about it, being consumed by what's happening in Gaza, and then feeling guilty that I'm ignoring my family, essentially. Praying to God for a free Palestine once and for all. Ameen.
Israeli occupation did not allow this baby to live more than 1 hour. You heard that right. She was martyred after being alive for only 1 hour today. Her mother did not even have time to give her a name, so she called her God's gift. And she was not allowed to see the light of day. Perhaps she saw the blinding lights of the missiles that killed her during her first hour alive. Rather, we should not attribute to her that she felt alive at all, as she came alive in death. I don't even know what to say anymore, but Palestinian children deserve to live. They deserve to live longer than an hour. They deserve to have full childhoods. They deserve to be teenagers, to be young adults, to get married, to be parents, to then be grandparents. They deserve it all, and they deserve to be whatever they want to be, but the occupation is ripping that away from them. This is not a war on Hamas. This is a genocide on children. In October, we heard that there were 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza expected to give birth in the next month or so. And now we're seeing the outcomes of those very children and their mothers. Hadiyat Allah was only on this earth for 1 hour today. I can't even say she was a child or a baby. She was barely a newborn. Don't stop talking about Palestine and Palestinian children. Their lives are literally depending on it.
You want to know why the largest private investment in Israel's history happened yesterday? By now, it's pretty much official that Netanyahu lost the war. Diaper Force is now getting fungus infection. His plan to send people from Gaza into Sinai, Egypt, isn't gonna work out. Netanyahu's only chance is to revive the economy by focusing on tech, the largest sector for their economy. Something he apparently thinks he can do because the little weasel used to be finance minister. But here is where his plan isn't exactly working out. You see, Intel, a half of their profit comes from China. And guess who started slowing down and putting a lot of bureaucracy in the paperwork of Israeli company? China. So you sure as hell should be boycotting all tech companies that support this war. Because the second they lose this, it's over.
Y'all, the Houthis really said, we are not gonna stop, we are not gonna let up, we want the smoke, we're here for it, no matter what. Like, this is crazy. They said, we will not stop. And they got their own stuff going on. This is from March of 2023. More than 540,000 children under the age of 5 in Yemen are suffering life-threatening, severe acute malnutrition, and a child passes away every 10 minutes from preventable causes. And yet still, the Houthis are showing up and they are being punished by the international community constantly. I love this tweet. It says, looking at what the Yemenis are doing for Pal today shouldn't only make you applaud them, but reflect. It should lead you to question why the whole world fought Yemen in the last decade and wage an unprecedented war against them. It should make you question why. And I've been questioning why. I'm trying to learn about Yemen. But they're the ones that are showing up and showing out, even though they're suffering and even though they're being punished.
You know how evil is always saying that, oh, you know, Palestinians teach their children to hate, do. What the hell is this? Because a principal at the school shared an article from an Israeli newspaper talking about letting more aid into Gaza, and this is how the students reacted. They had an entire brawl at the school because they were so mad that their principal wanted to send life-saving aid to the Gazans. This is how they reacted, by having a whole brawl in the school. I've seen, you know, that guy who goes on Twitch or whatever, and he talks to these teenagers and is evil, and then he's kind of like talking to them, and he doesn't even have to say anything. They're just so unhinged. Like, the way these Ziotards act is like, do you even have a brain? Like, do you even have a conscience? Do you even have a mind of your own? Like, they're taught to hate. Like, they're so hateful and violent. They're teenagers. And these are the next generation of Zion Nazis that's going to be in charge of the poor Palestinians. Like, it's so sad for them. It's really sad that their parents and the government and their schools fill them with this much hate.
It's December 27th, and in the past 24 hours, Israel has killed at least 195 Palestinians, with at least 325 being injured. This brings the death toll up to over 21.1 thousand people, with over 55,000 people suffering from injuries. Not to mention, there are probably so many more thousands of bodies under the rubble that they're unable to get yet. The Jaffa Mosque in Deir al-Balah is now in complete ruins because of the raids. And Israeli forces also carried out artillery bombardment near the Saad bin Abi Waqqas Mosque. And at least 12 Palestinians were arrested in the West Bank last night. Don't stop researching for Palestine. Do not stop going to your protests. Do not stop learning about Palestine. Keep talking about them. Remember that the least you can always do is educate yourself. So, who's going to the January 13th pro-Palestine protest in Washington, D.C.? I just want to know what the turnout's going to look like. I know that we're hoping for higher numbers than our November 4th protest. And if you didn't know about it before, you know about it now.
Alright guys, so here's an update for you. It is Thursday, December 28th, about 6:50 a.m. Palestine time. So we all know that last Friday on December 22nd, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution to get aid into Gaza. However, as of today, the WHO chief says that it has yet to make an impact in Gaza. And so for those of you who may be unaware of what this resolution says, it specifically calls for humanitarian pauses between Israel and Hamas, increased aid to Gaza, and the creation of conditions that will allow for a sustainable end to fighting. And just as a quick aside, I want to put into perspective how much aid they're getting versus how much aid they need for bare minimum. So before October 7th, Gaza was getting 500 aid trucks a day for bare minimum living. Thursday before the ceasefire, they got around 70-ish. The Friday of the ceasefire, they got around 70-ish. Saturday after the ceasefire, they got around 90-ish. The Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't think they got more than, I'd say, 150 trucks each day when they need 500 a day bare minimum. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros, is quoted saying, "Day after day, the needs of Gaza's war-ravaged people grow. Peril, ill health, hunger, thirst, lack of shelter. These should not be the norm for millions of people, but sadly they are." His remarks come after WHO teams carried out high-risk missions to deliver supplies to 2 hospitals in Gaza. In the north, UN teams brought medical items and fuel to the Al-Shifa hospital, where there are 50,000 2,000 people seeking shelter. They brought this fuel to keep essential health services running at the hospital. Teams in the south visited Al Amal Hospital, where WHO staff said they found it impossible to walk inside without stepping over patients or those seeking refuge. And personally, I'm just wondering how many more people need to starve to death, how many days need to pass before the United Nations finally does something about Israel not allowing this aid into Gaza.
Israel made this wild propaganda film with Koreans in it, and I'm going to show you. They tweeted this, but it's wild. Remember, Israel produced this. This is all bananas. And the way they're making it seem like a K-drama is really wild. Their tweet says, imagine waking up to sirens and rockets floating all around you, but Korea has gone through that before. Korea was carpet bombed, millions were killed by the US empire. They've deleted the tweet since then, but just think about how horrific that imagery is for a country that has gone through that already. Empire posted this in response to the constant protesting that's happening in Korea for a free Palestine. So y'all, just know that we are getting to them. 단결 투쟁, down with all empire.
Hey, so I've said this today as a Native American, and I'll say it again. If my violent oppressors imprisoned me for my entire life, left me an orphan by taking the lives of my entire family, confined me to a concentration camp that I could not leave my entire life, where they controlled my access to food and water, destroyed my house, took the lives of countless friends, committed every single kind of violence against my loved ones, continuously dehumanized me and my people for 75 years, all while painting themselves as the victim and never having to pay for a single moment of it, you can bet your sweet cheeks that I would have the absolute most smoke for every single person who is benefiting from the ongoing atrocities and genocide of me and my people. I will never condemn how an oppressed people fight back against their decades-long genocide and ethnic cleansing, especially when peaceful resistance has already not worked. Hopefully that answers your question and clears things up for you.
So a group of people blocked the road to JFK to protest the ongoing genocide happening in Gaza by disrupting business and applying pressure on the U.S. government to end the ongoing genocide happening in Gaza that is being funded by American tax dollars. Tell me why white people were in the comment section going, I stand with Palestine, but this is not the way you should be protesting. This is not the way you get things done. Like, I stand with Palestine, but what if I had an emergency and the roads were blocked and I couldn't get through? Like, this is dangerous. And this is what I mean when I say, like, white people are some of the most dense people on this planet. Like, the fact that they cannot help themselves from censoring themselves, even in the midst of a genocide of another group of people. And it's because they've been indoctrinated and institutionalized by white supremacy. They benefit from white supremacy. And even though they can feel bad for people of color and feel bad for what's happening to Palestinians in Gaza, they still view themselves as superior. That's why they can see this minor inconvenience of them being late for a flight or even them missing a flight as a huge inconvenience, and it's more of a danger than the actual genocide that is happening to Palestinians. You know, they can't even see how this type of demonstration is the only way we can apply pressure on the US government, because we're fucking with their money, right? Like, America loves money. It's a capitalist country. So if you disrupt the road to the airport on the busiest day of the year, you're messing with America's money. So yeah, you're going to have more eyes on the protests that are happening and the demand to end the genocide in Gaza. But you can't see past your inconvenience. Like, the fact that you're going to be inconvenienced, that to you matters more. And it's, again, it comes back to like this centering of the self. You get what I'm trying to say? And it's like, the death toll in Gaza is about to reach 30,000. Like, 30,000 Palestinians have died since October 7th. And all we've done is peacefully protest and call up our representatives and make these educational videos. And the longer this goes on, yes, the demonstrations and the protests will get more and more aggressive, because we're watching this genocide every hour, every minute. There is a new video being uploaded of the massacres taking place in Gaza. And the fact that like so many people are so much more concerned with how am I going to be inconvenienced makes me realize, like, you don't see people of color as equals. Like, you still benefit from white supremacy, and you don't even see your own inner racism.
Hi, my name is Medeabenjamin with the peace group Code Pink, and I'm standing in front of this nondescript building at 251 H Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. But guess what? It's actually the headquarters of the largest foreign policy lobby group in the United States, called AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. I wonder why it doesn't display its name. Maybe it doesn't want you to know it's here. Maybe it's because it prefers to work in the shadows, sending millions of dollars to politicians, and in return wanting those politicians to send billions of dollars to Israel. That's why almost $4 billion of our tax money every year is going to Israel. And that's why, in the midst of Israel's full-on genocide in Gaza, AIPAC wants to send $14 billion more. AIPAC is livid that some members of Congress, under tremendous pressure from their constituents, have dared to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. That's why AIPAC says it's going to spend $100 million in the coming election to oppose them. Congresswoman Betty McCollum has called AIPAC a hate group. AOC says it's a racist group that disproportionately targets members of color. And Congressman Mark Pocan says it's a cancerous presence on our democracy. Politicians have good reason to fear AIPAC, which has shown a mafia-like ability to make and break careers. But we, the people, must stand up to it. We must make it toxic for politicians to take AIPAC money. We must support Jewish groups calling for a ceasefire, like Jewish Voice for Peace, and If Not Now. And we must continue to build a torrential wave of people power so strong that politicians will have no choice but to do the right thing, to call for a ceasefire, to stop sending our money to Israel, and to stand up for a free Palestine. And one more thing. Let's make AIPAC register as an agent of a foreign government, because after all, that's precisely what it is.
One of the things that I love is when the tactics of propagandists backfire on them. And one of the best examples of this was whataboutism regarding Palestine. Because remember, when every time that we spoke about Palestine, we would hear back, but the Uyghurs, but the DRC Congo, but the Sudan, but Syria. And the objective was quite clear. They wanted to make you feel like a hypocrite because you weren't up to date with all of the tragedies that were happening in the world. They also wanted to make you feel as if you were anti-Semitic. when in fact you were just criticizing the state of Israel because they were conducting ethnic cleansing and genocide. But you know what this community did? They were like, let me look at that. And we did. When we started to analyze the historical context of these concurrent things happening in the world, we came to a conclusion. There was a pattern here. Exploitative capitalism, settler colonialism, white supremacy, that Prada gear, it's all carried out by Uyghurs, allowing the people who own these companies that are based in Europe to rake in masses of profits. The same people that boast from the green revolutions that are powered by the minerals extracted from the Congo, the same minerals that are used by Israelis to do weapons research that they sell throughout the world, and that they use not only to erase Palestinians, to allow other horrid regimes like the Sudanese to do the same. Now we're speaking about all of that. Thank you.
Remember this man. Remember his name, Said Abul Aish. Said is a nurse who have not been able to get in touch with his family or see his family for the past 80 plus days because Said is a nurse in the Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza. Said has been taking care of the wounded and injured due to Israel bombardments in the Indonesian hospital, not being able to leave the place for 80 days. Today, Said received the bodies of his wife, kids, all his family, after Israel have bombed them and their home, civilians. This is extremely painful. This cannot be forgotten. This cannot be forgiven. It will never be forgiven.
Something that I feel like a lot of people don't know is that houses in Gaza are not built out of wood. They're not built out of tile, as opposed to the West. And, we discovered that quickly when we moved to the US. The walls are paper thin. Everything is made out of wood and tile and just very superficial top layer. In Gaza, the houses are made out of stone, literal rock that's carved. It's very thick. And so when it comes to being buried under rubble for a very long time, there is no heavy machinery or infrastructure that can be used and utilized to dig people out. You guys have to understand that it's literal men in flip-flops, in pajamas, literally woken up, to the sound of a bomb and immediately, frantically trying to gather around with their hands and with picks and household tools to be able to lift these very heavy stones and rocks to find people, whether, alive or dead, underneath them. And a lot of people don't understand that. Sad reality is, what really kills me is a lot of people do end up living under the rubble, but because it takes such time and effort to be able to extract them or bury them out of it or, pick them out of it, it ends up killing them. And they just, because they're there for such a long period of time and there's no effective way to immediately get them out from under the rubble, they either die from starvation or some sort of bodily injury because of the pressure of being under stone and concrete for such a long period of time.
Because of the continuous Israeli airstrikes on Palestinians in Gaza, many of them have lost a leg, an arm, sometimes even more than one. A UNICEF spokesperson, Mr. Elder, said that he stressed when he was in the Strip, he encountered many young amputees. Around 1,000 children in Gaza have lost one or both of their legs. After reading that article, I came across a video of a Palestinian man on a bike with just one leg. Sadly, he is one of many. Just take a look at this video.
من قلب خيام النازحين هنا الأمل وهنا الحياة. إيش شعورك لما ركبت البسكليت بعد انقطاع أكثر من 77 يوم؟ كباتن.
قطاع غزة معزول عن العالم الخارجي تماما.
فريق طيور الشمس دايم عطاؤه، متواجدين دائما في الميدان لشبابنا.
A spokesperson for the Palestinian Red Cross told Al Jazeera that the humanitarian aid trucks coming in are not enough to meet the basic needs and survival of the Palestinian people. So, according to reports, and I could not find this in any Western mainstream media, but it is verified, that the U.S. is going to send 230 cargo planes and 20 ships of aid to the people of Gaza. That's a lot of planes and ships. Wait, sorry, I read that wrong. U.S. sends massive military aid to Israel, 230 cargo planes and 20 ships of military equipment. That's kind of the opposite of what's needed. Wow. Imagine being on that side of history. Holy crap. 230 cargo planes and 20 ships full of weapons for Israel. I guess the positive note in this is that the U.S. rejected Israel's request for Apache helicopters. I guess they believe that that's overkill. That the 230 cargo planes of weapons and 20 ships of military aid to Israel is okay, but the Apache helicopters is overkill. Just, again, history's going to look back at this, and they're just not going to understand it.
I have tried to post this response 3 times, and each time TikTok has put the video under review with no recourse. So here we are, trying again. Here I have an excerpt from A Jewish State by Theodor Herzl, again, the father of Zionism as it is known and practiced today. This book was written in 1896, and there are a couple of things I want to point out from this page. Yes, he's primarily talking about the decision to choose between Palestine or Argentina to create a Jewish state. And in doing so, Herzl says this: in both countries, important experiments in colonization have been made, though in the mistaken principle of a gradual infiltration of Jews. An infiltration is bound to end in disaster. It continues till the inevitable moment when the native population feels itself threatened and forces the government to stop the further influx of Jews. Immigration is consequently futile unless based on an assured supremacy. A lot to unpack there, but Herzl recognizes that both of these places, Palestine and Argentina, are inhabited by an indigenous population and native population, and that immigration is not enough. They have to colonize because their presence has to be based on supremacy, which is the language of colonization. I also want to highlight where he says, the very name of Palestine would attract our people with a marvelous potency, proving that, once again, Zionism was never about a deep religious and cultural connection to the land of ancient Israel that Jews have, but instead a colonial project that used Palestine as a means of gathering and getting more settlers to colonize it. I'll also link a video below where I listed a ton of primary and secondary sources on the development of Zionism that will corroborate this. But here's one important receipt.
Don't ask me to give any opinions on Hamas ever again. The time to care about Hamas and what Hamas did was 70 days ago. Because I'm chronically online, and I've never seen a Hamas representative get on Twitter or on Instagram or the internet. But you know what I have seen? I've seen this video that this tweet is attached to that I can't show on TikTok. I've seen Palestinian children stand in the street and cry and scream because they've just watched their entire bloodline die in front of them. I've seen hospitals bombed. I've seen churches bombed. I've seen Bethlehem raided on Christmas morning. I've seen the Israel Twitter account tweet like a teenager. I've seen countless creators that look like me and don't look like me reprimanded, scolded, lose their jobs, lose their positions, lose their accounts because they're speaking out against this. Time to fake care about Hamas or care about Hamas was 80 days ago, because the entire narrative and the picture has drastically changed since then. This was never about Hamas, and I hope you know that. And if you think it was, you're greatly ill-informed and ignorant.
So as we exposed the Words of Iron website, which was mass reporting pro-P content, which explains what's been happening to all of our content, another one has been brought to light called Movers. It works exactly the same way. They just keep refreshing for new pro-P content and just mass report it, zero effort. So I took the same steps that we took for Words of Iron. And unfortunately, I came to find that the domain registrar is for Interspace Limited, which is an Israeli leading provider of web hosting, and it's a privately held company. And when you go to their website, there's no way to report or hold anyone accountable the same way you could with the domain host that Words of Iron had, right? That was one where there was accountability. This is not going to happen. But the person who created Movers is not so intelligent, because they left all their personal information in all the coding. You guys can show your support to his accounts. So although we can't legally report this website because of the domain host, if we continue to flood it with traffic like we did on the Words of Iron site, it probably won't be able to handle it, because if he wasn't smart enough to protect his identity, he probably didn't create a website that was well equipped for mass amounts of traffic. But like, it would be a real shame if someone used the same type of psychology they're using to report our content to report his account. But I won't tell you to do that, because that is not okay.
It's important to recognize that right now Palestinians from Gaza will be scrolling on their phones and they'll find a video or an image of someone they know who was taken hostage, who's getting tortured. And they'll see their houses, places that they own, businesses that they built, demolished, destroyed, or being vandalized by Israeli terrorists. I want you to take a look at this clip. This is a video of an Israeli terrorist who is at a beach resort in Gaza, and my friend whose family owns this place found it just by scrolling on her TikTok. So what that terrorist is saying is he's pretending he's on a call with his wife or daughter, whoever would want to be with someone like him. Look how beautiful it is here. We finally reached the weekend. So then he goes and says, oh, they even have chips here. They have everything. Obviously stolen chips from the supermarket that was at that place. And then his terrorist colleague holds a sign that says sweet, and they just keep making fun of it. So imagine scrolling on your feed and you see your house, or you see a body of someone that you know. You see a business that you own, that you worked hard on, just being vandalized, being demolished, just looking like that. And you can do absolutely nothing about it. But I think if anything, those videos coming from the terrorists are showing to us the degree to which Israelis have failed on the ground in Gaza, and how their ground invasion consists of them eating stolen chips and making fun of a resort that they ruined and vandalized.
Why did you put that 12-year-old in jail?
Oh, because he threw a rocket at a tank. That's property damage.
Oh, that's fine then.
Now remember that human rights apply to us too.
Go fuck yourself.
Nice. I never said I wanted to wipe them out.
You said that yesterday on television.
I was actually just having a bad day. That's really insensitive of you. Bombing hospitals bad.
Yeah, okay.
Bombing hospitals bad everywhere.
Nah, you've lost me. You can't bomb a school. That's a war crime.
What if I say please?
Excuse me? Do you condemn Hamas? Free Palestine!
Don't forget that it's not just about free Palestine, but the Palestine that's freeing us along the way.